Hello, my name is Eli Suarez, and today I'm going to be presenting on the topic of black ice. I chose this topic because although I attend Central Alabama Community College, I am born and raised in Chicago, and black ice is something that I experience every single winter, and I feel like some people in the South might not be as familiar with it. Here we have some basic overview about black ice, and a common misconception that people often ask me when I mention black ice is if the ice is actually black. And the answer to that is no. It's actually basically the opposite. One of the most important and biggest dangers of black ice is its invisibility. Oftentimes, you'll come across black ice on smooth pavements such as sidewalks, roads, and driveways, which are very, very essential locations in our everyday lives. For example, if you wake up in the morning to go take your trash out, that's a really good time and common time that people get hurt or will come across it or slip, or even just pulling out of your driveways. Sometimes you're on a slope or you have a sharp corner and that ice just doesn't allow you to make that turn, and that's when you oftentimes find yourself sliding into a tree or sliding into the middle of the road. So here we're going to be getting into some of the basics and the science behind how black ice actually forms. So what we find is that water freezes at or just below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. But something that is extremely interesting to me, and I actually didn't know this before researching the topic, is that what's important here is actually the surface temperature. So for black ice to form, the surface temperature needs to be at or just below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is actually interesting because when people start to see the temperatures creep just above 32 degrees, or they start to see the sun shining a little bit, they may think they're in the clear, but they're actually not, because if that surface temperature is still at or just below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, there is going to be a major risk for black ice. And I think that's something that news outlets and weather channels should be educating people on, is that if the surface temperature is at that benchmark, there is still a danger. This is going to lead me to my very short and simple demonstration of how black ice is formed. So here I'm going to be creating a mini model of black ice. I have this tin here to represent a street or a road with some painted lines. And what I'm going to be doing is adding a very thin layer of water. The reason this has to be thin is because, let's say it snows, when that sun hits, it's going to create a very, even layer of water. It's not going to be some big block of ice. It's just going to be a very thin, melted down sheet of water. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sticking it in the freezer, and that's going to be demonstrating when the sun goes down and the temperatures start to drop. You guys will be able to see a really good demonstration of what black ice is. So here are the results after freezing some of that water, or in real life what would be some type of light rain or snow. We can see how there is a very light layer of ice, and we can see the dangers of how invisible it is, because you can almost perfectly see each and every mark, and as thin as it looks, there's definitely pieces of ice there, which would present itself as an everyday danger. So in conclusion, as we talked about a little bit in my presentation, the most common way for this to form, at least where I live, at least where I see it, is that the heat from the sun will melt away some of those thin layers of snow, and that water will sit throughout the day. And as the sun starts to go down and temperatures start to drop, that is when black ice will form, and that is when everyone starts to become susceptible to the dangers of black ice, like car crashes, slipping on pavements, and a lot of the other crazy things you'll see out on the road. So that is my presentation on black ice, and I hope that was informative.